Welcome to the APO Productivity Talk Series. Today's session explores how SMEs can practically establish an ESG culture. In recent years, SMEs have increasingly been expected to make efforts towards their own ESG initiatives. While such initiatives have become commonplace among large companies, customers are now paying attention not only to products and services, but also to the corporate philosophy and systems behind them. SME's philosophy is also beginning to influence people's decisions when choosing their workplace. However, for many SMEs, ESG initiatives tend to take a backseat to their core business activities, and resource constraints make it difficult to address them. I'm Tomoyuki Yamada from the APO Secretariat, and I'll be serving as a moderator for this session. Today, we are honored to have Mr. Hideyuki Ezaki, an esteemed expert with extensive experience in SMEs management, particularly in the areas of labor productivity and corporate governance. He has participated in over 10 international cooperation projects supporting SMEs across Asia, Africa, and Japan, and is a certified registered management consultant, as well as a labor and social security attorney. Ezaki-san, good afternoon. Thank you for joining our P-Talk session today.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Ezaki-san. So the floor is yours to begin your presentation.
Thank you very much. So now I would like to start my presentation under the theme of establishing an ESG culture in SMEs. And while ESG initiatives are gaining traction globally, SMEs often struggle to keep pace due to limited resources and competing priorities. In many cases, ESG efforts are viewed as secondary to core business operations. However, this perception is gradually shifting. SMEs are increasingly expected to demonstrate accountability and sustainability, not only by customers, but also by business partners, investors, and even prospective employees. The challenges lies in integrating ESG principles into daily operations without compromising business viability. In this presentation, I will explore practical strategies for aligning ESG efforts with SME management goals. Through selected case studies, I will examine how ESG can serve not as a burden, but as a catalyst for resilience, innovation, and long-term value creation. Now, first, I would like to talk about trends in Japan. Let me begin with an overview of ESG reporting in Japan. Starting in year 2027, ESG disclosure will become mandatory for publicly listed large corporations in Japan. The year 2025 and 26 will serve as a transition period to prepare for full implementation. A total of 1,635 companies will be subject to this requirement. Under the new standards, companies must disclose information across 5 key categories, including governance and strategy, risk management, climate-related financial risks, carbon emissions, and social and biodiversity impacts. According to the 2024 White Paper on SMEs, Japan has approximately 2.5 million joint stock companies. This means that only 0.07% of all corporations will be directly affected by the mandate in year 2027. This highlighting a significant gap between regulatory coverage and the broader corporate landscape. Why are SMEs not included in Japan's mandatory ESG reporting requirements? The answer lies in the complexity and the resource intensity of the reporting standards, which pose significant challenges for smaller businesses. Japanese ESG reports typically require disclosure across 5 demanding categories. These expectations highlight the high barriers SMEs face in adopting such frameworks. The number one is a cross-functional ESG committees. This is led by senior executives from sustainability, finance, legal, and risk management departments. These committees oversee strategic alignment with some global frameworks. Number two is internal data governance systems. The companies must assess and enhance their data collection capabilities to track metrics such as carbon emissions, biodiversity impact, and energy efficiency. The next one is digital tools and automation. Platforms like Carbon Register are used to automate data collection and standardize reporting, ensuring auditability and compliance with international standards. The number four is auditor and stakeholder engagement. ESG teams work closely with external auditors and investors. Pre-compliance checks and stakeholder dialogues are common practices to validate disclosures. And the last one is reference materials and training. The resources such as the JPX ESG Disclosure Handbook and ESG Knowledge Hub introduce best practices, while internal training programs help employees understand ESG metrics and reporting logic. Given the complexity and scale of these requirements, it's reasonable that mandatory ESG reporting is currently limited to a small subset of large corporations. The absence of mandatory ESG reporting doesn't mean that Japanese SMEs are ignoring ESG considerations. On the contrary, a recent survey by a financial institution found that only 2.9% of SMEs are taking no actions related to ESG. Interestingly, Japanese SMEs tend to prioritize labor conditions and governance over environmental initiatives. In this context, governance often refers not to anti-bribery or compliance frameworks, but rather to practical management practices such as timely monthly financial reporting, internal regulations, and business planning. Among ESG components, the social dimensions is the most widely adopted. Here, efforts are often focused on improving employee satisfaction, reflecting a stakeholder-centric approach that is characteristic of Japanese SMEs. Rather than launching separate ESG projects, many SMEs are already engaging in ESG-aligned practices through their existing management routines. Recognizing and redefining these everyday activities as part of ESG is a crucial step toward broader adoption. Here I have listed items that are highly relevant to ESG in SME corporate management. In fact, when we look at the elements included in ESG in this presentation slide, there are many that the SMEs can and should address. These are just popular examples, but SMEs in your country and definitely also are working on some of these things. For instance, Environment E, low COX emission, 5S for reducing wastes are included in the part of environments. And talking about S, labor safety, community link, and education and training are included. And in the point of G, governance, ethics, and anti-corruption or stakeholder management are part of it. And why is ESG important for SMEs then? The answer can be explained from these key perspectives: customers and shareholders, and employees and local communities, and competition and risk. And number one in this slide is talking about expectations of consumer and investors. More consumers and investors prioritize environmental responsibility and social contribution. And number 2 is talent acquisition and corporate appeal. More employees put value on CSR. And ESG attracts top talents and improve employees' retention. The third point is risk management and competitive advantages. So society is becoming more strict regarding environmental regulations and human rights issues, and that will affect the risk management and competitiveness of the companies. As integral members of these communities, SMEs must earn the trust not only of customers and shareholders, but also of employees, their families, and the younger generations who may become future talent. Business practices that conflict with ESG principles can severely damage a company's credibility and threaten its long-term viability. In other words, ESG has a direct and significant impact on corporate value. When considering the corporate value enhancement, ESG should not be viewed merely as a passive response to social expectations. Instead, it can be strategically linked to productivity improvement and profit generation. Let me explore how ESG principles can be integrated into productivity logic. A wide range of tools are already used across various business functions, not only in manufacturing, but also in other departments to improve productivity, as mentioned in the left. And these tools help the departments achieve their specific goals, which in turn contribute to broader organizational objectives. When aggregated, these department efforts lead to improvements in cost efficiency, revenue growth, and customer satisfaction, ultimately enhancing corporate profitability at the right side, at the right edge of this presentation. And activities such as new product development and market expansion are also part of the productivity ecosystem. ESG is closely intertwined with each of these elements. Environmental E is like reducing waste and optimizing energy and material usage directly contributes to environmental performance. And talking about the social S, metrics like outputs per head and labor productivity involve key stakeholders, employees and customers. And governance G, transparent goal setting, efficient administrative processes, and sound policy development reflect strong governance. SDGs aligned innovation. Entering new markets or developing products that address social needs can also be considering part of ESG. By embedding ESG into core management practices, SMEs can enhance both productivity and profitability, ultimately increasing their corporate value. By integrating ESG with productivity frameworks, SMEs can measure both business performance and sustainability efforts in a unified and quantitative manner. While calculating CO2 emissions may be technically challenging for small companies, tracking indicators such as electricity cost, chemical usage, and paper consumption is far more accessible for SMEs. These metrics offer practical entry points for environmental monitoring. In the social domain, setting and measuring indicators related to employees and customers is not a separate ESG activities. It's a natural extension of everyday business operations. For governance, SMEs can focus on establishing higher level management goals, such as timely financial reporting, policy development, and operational transparency. In this way, ESG becomes not just a compliance exercise, but a strategic tool for enhancing productivity, profitability, and long-term corporate value. And here I would like to introduce a case study in Japan. And I would like to introduce company A, which is established in 1987, and their number of employees is 40. And they are working in the field of manufacturing industrial heaters. This company, the president, began reflecting on the firm's role in society after noticing a rise in ESG and SDG awareness and receiving more inquiries from customers about the company's sustainability efforts. As a first step, the company launched a customer satisfaction survey, not only to assess satisfaction with its products and services, but also to better understand customer expectations and the emerging needs. To improve employee retention and attract top talent, the company then initiated an employee satisfaction survey aiming to identify workplace needs and enhance working conditions. Over time, the company's focus expanded to include employees' families and the local community. Through trial and error, it began strengthening community ties, opening a cafe next to the factory as a public gathering space and inviting children for factory tours. This shift was driven by the realization that employees work not just for themselves, but for their families. And those families are part of the same community. Building trust and interest in the company among local stakeholders became recognized as a key factor in ensuring long-term sustainability in this company. As a result of these stakeholder-focused initiatives, this company came to recognize that building trust and visibility not only enhances a reputation, but also directly influences productivity and profitability. The company shifted its perspective. ESG efforts are not charitable activities. They are integral to business strategy. By treating ESG as part of core management, the company began setting clear goals and tracking outcomes quantitatively. Some of the KPIs mentioned earlier were developed in this context. In addition, the company now monitors indicators such as gender balance and paid leave utilization rates, using them to assess progress annually. This approach reflects a broader shift. ESG is no longer a peripheral concern. It's a measurable driver of cooperative value. And recognizing the importance of transparency and public engagement, the company decided to share its initiatives more broadly. It began publishing an annual report that outlines its yearly action plans and achievements. This move strengthened ties with the local community and led to widespread recognition. The company has since received multiple awards for its excellence in SME management and sustainable practices. Notably, the report is titled an annual report rather than an ESG report. This reflects that the company's belief that ESG is not a separate or symbolic activity. It's a core component of business management. To conclude my P-talk, I would like to highlight 5 key points. First, let me recall that this company employs just 40 people. Despite its small size, it has demonstrated that with strong leadership and commitment from the president, an SME can become a vital presence for its employees and local community. Why did the president commit to ESG and invest in publishing its outcomes? Because he understood that ESG contributes quantitatively to both corporate value and profitability. Second, the company conducted a comprehensive stakeholder analysis. while covering all ESG dimensions may be difficult for SMEs. This company identified its most relevant stakeholders, not just customers, but also distributors, employees, local communities, and even the future of the planet. As a B2B manufacturer, it focused on empowering distributors to enhance end user satisfaction. Its commitment to environmental stewardship and passing down manufacturing expertise reflects a unique long-term vision. Third, the company analyzed its own value creation flow, as mentioned in this slide. It clarified how external conditions, internal policies, and operational inputs translate into stakeholder value, and how that value returns to the company. This strategic mapping helped to align ESG with business outcomes. And the fourth, ESG was not treated as a compliance obligation or philanthropic gesture. Instead, it was embedded in the company's productivity and profitability logic. Unlike large corporations, SMEs must ensure that every initiative contributes to financial sustainability. This company's ESG efforts were designed to reinforce its business model. Finally, because ESG was linked to profitability, the company established quantitative goals and tracked progress regularly. This approach boosted organizational motivation and enabled continuous improvement, ensuring that ESG remained a living part of its strategy. So while ESG compliance remains mandatory primarily for large corporations due to the significant burden it places on organizational resources, a shift in perspective emerges when ESG is linked to profitability and productivity. Looking ahead, this will likely be sustained demand for support mechanisms, not only from SMEs, themselves, but also from their advisors, consultants, and relevant government agencies to facilitate ESG integration. Many SMEs are already engaged in ESG-related activities informally. The first step is to clarify and recognize these existing efforts. From there, SMEs can redefine their business models, articulate stakeholder relationships, and value creation strategies, and begin implementing ESG initiatives incrementally. I believe that this approach can lead to an engagement system that harmonizes ESG principles with financial performance. Thank you for listening, and I appreciate to Bio to give me an opportunity to share my insight. Thank you very much. This is my presentation.
Thank you, Ezaki-san, for your wonderful and insightful presentation. So let's move on to the Q&A session. So my first question is, what challenges do Japanese SMEs face in promoting ESG initiative?
Yes, I believe there are two major challenges in promoting ESG initiatives in SMEs. First, companies need to accurately recognize whether they are truly not engaging in ESG or whether their existing activities already contribute to ESG without being labeled as such. In Japan, approximately 97% of companies report that they are undertaking ESG-relative efforts, indicating significant progress in this area. And secondly, many companies are seeking guidance on how to begin their ESG journey. This challenge includes three key aspects, I think. The number one is how to start with limited financial and human resources. And number two is how to proceed without sufficient knowledge or expertise. And the last one is how to prepare by referring to case studies from other companies. So as mentioned during the presentation, securing resources should be considered part of the overall management strategy, not only especially for ESG initiatives. However, when it comes to information and examples, some support from organizations such as business development, service providers, or other assistance bodies is essential.
Thank you, Ezaki-san. So, are there any additional challenges you personally experience when supporting SMEs in adopting ESG practices?
Yes, many companies tend to perceive ESG as something separate from their core business operations. Of course, the purpose of business is not solely to achieve ESG goals. However, a significant number of SMEs are struggling with how to integrate ESG into their management practices. So in this context, it's essential for companies to define their ESG initiatives based on through a thorough analysis of their stakeholders and value creation processes. This approach allows ESG to become a strategic component of business rather than peripheral activities.
Thank you. That is quite interesting and insightful. Please let me ask you another question. You have provided support to many SMEs across various countries, and I guess the situation differs from one country to another. So, considering the differences in economic development and cultural context, what kind of variations can be observed in SMEs' approaches to ESG across different countries?
It's an interesting question. In many countries, companies are primarily seen by employees as places to earn a salary and provide services. As a result, work and private life are often completely separated in those countries. While companies may include employees as stakeholders, they often fail to recognize the broader community behind them, such as local residents and employees' families, as part of their stakeholder network. Additionally, many companies, including those in Japan as well, they tend to focus on the environment as a core of ESG, while overlooking internal governance as an integral part of ESG. So there also appears to be difference in how websites are designed between Japanese and overseas companies. Japanese companies tend to build their website as detailed communication tools, whereas overseas companies often limit their websites to essential information, using them primarily for brand awareness and as contact points.
I see. When we talk about ESG, people tend to focus mainly on the environment, but by also paying attention to the social and governance aspects, it becomes easier for companies to engage in ESG initiatives. And I understand that these areas also contain many elements that can improve productivity and business performance. Okay, so please let me ask you one last question. Among the cases you have supported so far, could you share with us the one that achieved the most notable success in introducing ESG initiatives?
Yes. So I take pride in having supported many companies in reducing operational wastes, which broadly contributes to the efficient use of resources. An important aspect of the E in ESG, environmental issues. More recently, I've been increasingly involved in supporting the S dimension, S area, particularly in improving employee working conditions. So in Japan, as you may know, labor shortages are a major challenge, and many companies are seeking support to reduce turnover rates. For example, we have designed a system called a job table, which integrates cross-functional performance evaluation and compensation frameworks. This system enables SMEs to implement fair and transparent evaluations of workers while maintaining employee motivation through a simple and practical structure. Through this table-based system, companies have been able to build a cross-functional and transparent employee evaluation framework that fosters a strong sense of fairness. As a result, it has contributed to lower turnover rates, improved employee satisfaction, and enabled companies to clearly present career paths.
I see. That sounds quite interesting. So I'd be happy to hear more about the job table on another occasion. That's all for today's session. So we are truly grateful to Mr. Hideyuki Ezaki for sharing his experience and expertise on how to establish an ESG culture in SMEs. Please don't forget to subscribe to the APO YouTube channel. Stay tuned and see you in the next session. Thank you very much, Ezaki-san.
Thank you very much.